Welcome back, everyone. This is our final session for today, and we're delighted to welcome Seamus McMenamin from Board BIA, who's going to talk about the organic market, domestic and abroad, and what the kind of evolving opportunities are. Seamus, I'm going to hand over to you.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Seamus McMenamin, and I'm just standing in for my colleague Pádraig Brennan, who unfortunately couldn't make it this evening. I've recently joined Board BIA as a sheep meat and livestock manager, and I have oversight responsibility for the organics promotion in Board BIA as well. This evening, over the next 20 minutes, I'm going to set out some of the key findings of some recent research that Board BIA have undertaken into the organic market, just in Ireland and also in the UK and in some key European markets. I'll also take a quick look at some consumer attitudes to organic produce, and then look at sort of the next stages from here for the Irish organic sector and the markets available to us. So first of all, I'll take a quick look just at Ireland and the organic demand from consumers here. So overall, as you can see from the graph there's been overall growth in the organic sector, or demand for organic produce, up as far as 2020, when the sales were valued at 235,000. You'll see there was exceptional growth in the value of organic sales between 2019 and 2020, almost 18% growth there, and that was continuing on from 6-7% annual growth. I suppose COVID restrictions and more of a focus on people wanting to know where their food came from and things, and there was a growing interest in organic food as a result. Now, in terms of market share by category, what type of organic products are Irish consumers buying? We have here on the screen figures from 2015 to 2020, and you'll see that there hasn't been a massive change or evolution in the type of products that consumers are looking for. So in terms of value, fruit and veg is obviously the largest category of organic produce, accounting for just over 40% of all sales in terms of value. You then got the seafood at 17%, and dairy at 23%, and then all your other categories are into lower areas. Now, all have shown in growth in 2021, as we look at in some of the next slides. So this slide just provides a breakdown of what's the origin of the organic produce being bought by Irish consumers. As you'll see, for the majority of categories here, for beef, lamb, eggs, dairy, and seafood, between 95 and 100% is domestically produced. There are, however, a significant proportion of fruit and vegetables and cereals and grains that are imported. Of course, there are reasons behind this, especially with some of the soft fruit and things that are imported that we can't be growing here. There is, however, a proportion of imported fruit and veg that could actually be growing here, and an increase in domestic production would sort of reduce our reliance on imports in these categories. So those are the key areas. In terms of overall organic imports, fruit and veg account for 75 to 80% of total imports. So this is a Kantar data based on the 52 weeks to the end of October 2021. Now this puts total spend on organics at 221 million. This is just retail. It doesn't take into account food service or box food schemes or home delivery or any of your small, organic stores or anything. So this is just purely retail. You'll see here from the figures that there has been growth of 2.7% in overall retail spend, and that has been driven primarily by an increase in volume sales. The value of sales is, as you see, is just increased slightly, but it's been more by the volume that has been driven. You will see there's also been an increase in the volume per buyer and the volume per trip. been a slight decrease in the household penetration, but just when you get down to organic and it's over a 52-week period, it's a small data set, so it's more difficult to sort of get clear understanding. But it gives you a good overview of where the market's at, and it's continuing on its upward trajectory in terms of overall growth. So in terms of just performance by category, the organic spend grew in 2020 by 2.7%, which was just behind total grocery sales of 3.4%. Now, there was some variation across the categories. These are percentage changes. You'll see there was some strong growth in poultry and organic fish, now albeit from a small base. And there was also so there was actually growth for the majority of sectors. If you look at meat, it was actually ahead of the total grocery sales, and the same for organic fruit. So who are the organic consumers? This provides a breakdown of the age profile of our consumers. As you'll see from the bottom chart, 21% of organic consumers identified in the study were pre-family, so that's your people basically pre-marriage, pre-children. And then the young family, it's probably our smallest category. And then as we move into middle family, I suppose as maybe disposable income or the availability of income to, more your income to be available for food grows then as you move up into the older categories as well. So overall, there's a fairly decent spread, but across the age cohorts. But the growth seems to be in the young pre-family category. So overall, then the total organic market in Ireland is predicted to continue to grow. So in 2021, we're forecast that it will be valued at 260 million in 2021, and that it will show a 9% annual growth then up as far as 367 million in 2025. There's expected to be strong growth in food service. Retail growth is expected to be a wee bit lower than that, but there'll be good growth in food service and box food schemes and those sort of areas of home delivery, that sort of thing. So they're expecting a 9% annual growth rate anyway in the overall value of organic sales. So we'll take a look now at the UK. Just in terms of the market share there, they're obviously a similar market to ourselves. Just in terms of overall value, I suppose the first thing to point out is in the first couple of bars of the chart, it would look like there was a decline in organic in the value of organic sales, but it was actually just due to exchange rates. So I'll just call that out just before. So overall, there's been a general upward movement similar to what we've seen in Ireland in the value of organic sales. So what they've said is they're recorded as an 18% growth since 2018, with particularly strong growth in online and home delivery emerging strongly. A figure at a recent event was that for every £4 spent in the UK on organic produce, £1 that was spent on an online or home delivery service. So it's definitely a hugely growing sector. Now, in terms of the sales by category, there is actually a slight difference in terms when we compare this to the Irish sector. In terms of value, dairy is much more prominent in the sales by category. I think it accounts for 23% of Irish sales, whereas it's 43% of the value in the UK. Other sectors are very similar. You've got your beef at 4%, your lamb at a couple of percent, your eggs at 7%, and your fruit and veg is obviously that wee bit smaller because it's been compensated for by the higher dairy. So then, in terms of retail sales, a slightly different picture from the Irish retail sales. It's showing much stronger growth. So during the 52 weeks ending October 2021, we've seen 5% growth in the retail spend, and this has been driven slightly different from the Irish. It's been driven by volume and value growth. The Irish was just driven by volume growth. You'll see for all the measures here, volume per buyer, frequency, volume per trip, have all shown a positive increase. The only slight thing is the number of buyers and penetration has decreased. But as for the Irish data, it's a smaller data set. So I wouldn't read too much into that. And it just calls out there actually the growth in terms of retail sales was 5.2% in the UK, which was nearly double ours, which was 2.9. So again, this calls out the total grocery sales in the UK were 2.9%, whereas the total organic retail performance increased by 5.2%. There's been an increase in the value growth for almost all sectors, particularly fruit and veg, and meat is showing a particularly strong increase, up by 6.5%, and organic poultry is up by 4%. So no, definitely very positive, and just slightly different from what we've seen on the Irish retail market. And then looking at the UK market growth expectations, similar to Ireland, they're expecting a 9% annual growth of as far as 2025. And similar again, it's expected to be driven by online and home delivery, with a smaller sort of growth in the retail end of it. There's been very strong growth in the value of eggs, dairy, and fruit and veg in particular in the UK market, and this is expected to continue. And the growth in these sales of these type of products has been particularly strong in the online element. So moving on then from the UK, the EU is obviously a huge market for organic produce, and we've done a recent study that looked at the key producers and consumers of organic produce. So it focuses on 7 countries, the study. So you've got Germany, France, Denmark, Sweden, the Netherlands, Italy, and Austria. And between them, they've got their consumption was valued at 28 million in 2020. And that was actually up from just short of 20 million in 2015. So between 2015 and 2019, we recorded a 56% growth in terms of organic market sales. In terms of the sales per category, it was actually very similar to the Irish retail sales, just 24% dairy, 42% fruit and veg, which is obviously the biggest category. And then you've got your seafood, your cereals, your beef, your lamb making up the rest of the cohort there. So the organic market value across selected markets then. So this is obviously broken down by individual country. Germany continued to be the largest organic market for produce. Just the set of figures puts it at 12 million in 2020 or 2019, sorry. But another report we've commissioned puts it that it increased further then to 15 million in 2020. So you'll see there was 40% growth rate between 2015 and 2019 in Germany. And then in France, the value of organic sales actually doubled to just somewhere in the region of 11 million. And then obviously there was quite strong growth in some of the other markets as well, but obviously from a much lower base. So I'll just briefly look at Germany. There's about 6% of the food and drink market in Germany is organic, and it's grown by between 6 and 10% annually over the last 3 years. That compares to maybe 1 to 2% in Ireland. The key change that we've seen in the organic sales in some of these key European customers or key European countries is that organic produce has become much more mainstream. They've actually become more visible. The green chart is actually for retailers, and that has grown in the last number of years, just as products become more visible on shelves, and the products just become more mainstream. Now, interestingly, most of the research has identified that the maximum premium consumers in the EU are willing to pay is somewhere in around 10% over the conventional price. So there is expected to be continual growth in the demand for organic produce in 2025 across all of the markets that were outlined in the study. As I said, France and Germany are expected to be key market drivers. And while domestic output of organic produce is expected to grow, it's not expected to meet consumer demand. So there will be opportunity. They will be looking for more imported organic produce, produced to the same sort of levels as they're looking for. The graph to your right hand side just calls out Germany just as an example, and just highlights the value of the value of the sector, of the continual growth. So you'll see that the annual growth is in around 3-4% every year. And obviously then if you go to some of the other countries, the proportion or the percentage growth is higher off a smaller base. In 2020, Borbia looked at commissioned a study just into consumer attitudes towards organic. So what is the Irish consumers' view of organic, and what are they looking for? Excuse me. So when they done the review with the respondents buying organic produce, they just asked them what the main reason was why you were buying organic produce, and 36% the main reason that they identified was that it was better for your health, but 73% of respondents did put it into any reason. So the two key things called out here were better for your health and better for the environment. And then obviously then there was other things like taste better, last longer, that were called out as well, but obviously the proportion weren't just as high. So as I said, in general the markup or the higher price for food in the organic market, or organic goods in the EU, tend to be maxed out at about 10%. So this study actually explored, for those that are consuming organic produce, what is their willingness to pay more. So as you'll see here from the far right of the screen, 70% of the respondents said that they would be willing to pay 5% more for organic produce. And then as that increases, then as you go to a 10% premium, that drops off then to 50%. And then that drops off then to 37% that I'd be willing to pay 15% more for organic produce. The key thing worth calling out is that we identified in an earlier slide that the younger cohort, maybe like pre-family, are showing much stronger willingness to pay more. You'll see there, as opposed to 37% willing to pay 15% more in the whole category, it was actually 46%. So there is a growing demand for organic produce, particularly among younger sectors of the population. One key element that has come out in all the research is that organic on its own is no longer really enough. There has to be other elements along with it. One of the key questions asked in one of the studies was, would I choose locally produced Irish food over organic food? Or I would choose, locally produced food over organic food. And you'll see that just over 2/3 of people says that they would buy local food. So it just takes in that it's not just enough for it to be organic, it has to be, food miles, and there is a preference for domestically produced product, which again then highlights the opportunities if we are to increase production here for the categories that we're not self-sufficient in, such as fruit and veg and cereals, that there is a preference to buy locally produced as well. There was a key bit of research done then in 2021, which just focused on the German organic consumer, and what they were looking for. We were looking to identify opportunities in the German market, as it's the biggest in Europe, and then to complement this, then there was a lead generation project ran after, just to identify potential customers for Irish organic companies to export to. So as I outlined previously, it's not just enough to be organic in some of these markets. You'll see that there's been strong growth in some of these products. So you've got your plant-based products, so it's organic and plant-based. You've got your organic and clean label. You've got your organic and locally produced, and then you've got your organic and a healthy alternative. So organic is just one of a number of claims that consumers are interested in. So in the German market, we also explored like what is the key reasons for buying organic produce, and it comes across very similar to what we've seen on the domestic market. So animal welfare is very high at 96%, the most important category. 94% for food as natural as possible, and you'll see there that the regionality is coming in, so or supporting local is 93%. But as I've outlined previously, there will be a deficit of organic produce in some of these markets, so there will be a space for imported produce in some of these European markets that will create opportunities for organic companies, especially as our production expands and grows. So just a focus now on some of the products, maybe on German markets. So Germans bought over 50% more organic meat in 2020 versus 2019. Now there was a few things that fell into this. Their organic labelling is also tied in with their Haltungsform, which is like an animal welfare labelling. So that was the key driver behind the sales. And then there is obviously growing retail presence for organic produce, which is obviously making it more visible on the supermarket shelves, and investment by retailers in the organic lines. So that's driving consumption. There's also a shift towards within retail anyway, towards eating a wee bit less meat but eating better. So it's that trend that sort of fed into the organic field, where the consumer is willing to pay that wee bit more just for a specialized product. So then, in terms of organic dairy products, they're actually growing a lot faster than the total dairy sector in Germany. So you see white line products are milks and yogurts. So in terms of organics, their value growth was 20% in 2020 versus 10% for just the conventional. And then your yellow line is your cheese and your butters. Organic products grew by 21% in terms of value versus just over 3% in terms of your standard lines. There's also then, these are all vegan-based products alongside being organic, and it just calls out again that the organic in itself is just one facet of meeting the demands of the retailers in some of these export markets. So I suppose that gives you a sort of an overview of where we of opportunities on the Irish market, on the UK market, on the EU market. So what's our next steps from here? So we do have key opportunities to grow the organic sector. The organic sector is well positioned to meet consumer needs. They want products that are healthier, natural, better for you, better for the planet. And organics fits in within that sustainable food solutions section, and meets the needs of the consumer. We've also got a growing plant-based trend, and there is a growing demand for plant-based derivatives. And this just fits in then with the organic sector, with a large proportion of vegetables, fruit, and herbs in some of these products. As I touched on, then there is growing export demand. There's growing demand in some of these EU countries where organic produce are much more mainstream than what we would see in Irish. And domestic growth in production there will not meet demand. So there's expected to be an increase in import demand, which obviously then creates opportunity for Irish exporters. And then, as I said, then I highlighted just right at the very start, we import a lot of fruit and veg and cereals, and there is an opportunity to displace some of these imports. And our seasonality is obviously an issue, but at certain times of the year we can certainly displace some of the imported produce. They just need to be competitively produced and competitively priced. So key challenges then to be addressed moving forward. So coordination of supply. The coordination of organic supply, particularly for the meat sector, there's an awful amount of leakage. If I just take the lamb sector for example, about 70% of the lambs that are born on organic farms are not killed as organic lambs. They're leaked into the conventional sector. There's also a good proportion of the beef are also leaked into the conventional sector, and it just comes down to having the supply base, the producer groups and things to sort of coordinate our supply and supply product year round. So the scale and seasonality, the fragmented supply base it's very evident just in the Irish system, and that leads then to the loss of supplies that I outlined in the previous point. There's also then the seasonal nature of our output as well that creates an issue, particularly in the fruit and veg sector. But at certain times of the year, we will need imported product. And then there's the availability of raw material on the domestic market. For example, there's up until recently only 50% of our Irish organic oats was available on the domestic market. Now I think that has grown since our report was commissioned, but it just highlights why there was so much cereals being imported. So in summary then, there is growth in the Irish, the UK and the European markets in terms of demand for organic produce, driven by retail, but across food service as well. There is generally a very positive consumer attitude towards organic in all these markets. And as I highlighted, Irish consumers have indicated they're willing to pay a modest premium over and above the standard price for organic produce. A key factor, however, is going to be coordinating the supply of that, of what we do produce, just to replace some of the product that has been imported. So that sort of brings me to an end of my presentation today, and I'm willing to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Seamus. Thanks a million. We've got some questions in. I just wanted to quickly ask you a few small questions. One is, with the Irish market, are you capturing the data from, we'll say, farmers markets, or even we had Sean on there who's selling direct? Are you capturing that data or not? I know, I know it's small, but yeah.
Yeah, no, the Kantar data is based just on retail sales.
Only retail, okay.
Only retail. Now, the Zenith report that we did commission did capture some of that food service data, but because it was 2020, it was quite a small market, obviously, with food service being closed for a large proportion of the year, so it was probably underrepresented. But no, the Kantar data is specifically retail. Okay,
and so if there was a word cloud for everything that you've said in your really helpful presentation, the key word there is just growth. I mean, it's a market that is growing, and there are obviously huge opportunities there.
Yeah, there certainly are. It's just about there are issues obviously just with the seasonality of production, and then the loss of organically produced products, particularly in the meat sector, to the conventional sector, just that need to be better coordinated, just to sort of keep as much produce. The issue with dealing with some of the retailers in terms of stock on organic produce is that they want year-round supplies, or at least 6 months.
And you mentioned coordination of supply. Can you just explain that a little more? What do you actually mean by that?
Well, just in terms of, for example, if I take a meat processor, it's easier to deal with a producer group who maybe is focused on producing organic lamb, or ties together all the producers. It's really about supply chain development, building a better relationship between the organic producer and then the retailer and the end customer. It's about developing a link through there.
And given that the drive seems to be in Ireland, if I'm correct in understanding, that was one of the graphs there, was locally produced food, organic food, so that local requirement, you're going to need a diverse range of processors at that level, or how do you fit into that local market?
Yeah, I suppose it does highlight that local is important, and you've seen that we import a lot of cereals and fruit and veg. Like we're largely self-sufficient in the other sectors, but it just shows that there are opportunities if it's locally produced to displace the imports.
Huge opportunities, yeah. We have a question here from Brendan. This is about procurement. Will there be a push from Board BIA to use organic food in schools, hospitals and government departments? Because obviously there's a big spend by the government on food, isn't there?
Yeah. No, it's certainly something that has been looked at in the past, and it's something the Board BIA has been active in driving that quality assurance is included in those specifications. At the minute, organic production wouldn't be small enough probably, or is too small to meet the needs of that sector. So it could probably be something that we could encourage a preference towards, but there wouldn't be the supply there at the minute.
I'm just thinking about the EU milk scheme being a good example of where maybe dairy farmers could feed in locally.
Yeah, I'm actually originally from the north. We did not get the school milk scheme, so I always wondered.
That's why you're sick, Seamus. That's why you've got a cold.
I've actually got COVID. Believe it or not.
You've got COVID. Oh God, he's got COVID.
Oh, you've got COVID.
Oh, sorry.
Lord Almighty, I hope you're okay. Well, we're very, very grateful, doubly grateful to you for giving us this presentation. We have another question. Stephanie,
work away.
Were there any particular reasons identified for the UK's market growth being twice that of Ireland? Was it supplier-led or market-driven?
They do tend to have, they don't have as much imported produce in terms of the dairy and egg sector. There's a lot more of it produced. You would have seen that dairy was more of a key driver in terms of just milk and yogurts and things. So it's as much to do with the products that they're consuming as much as anything else. But there is more of it produced in the UK. I'm not too sure the percentage, but it's slightly more than here in terms of their overall production. And then that then feeds into the availability then to the consumer. Okay,
and the final question from Sean O'Farrell. What are Board Bia's ambitions, goals to grow organic market sales? And you did touch on it, but I suppose just to address that question there, Seamus.
Yeah, it's very encouraging just to see the investment and the proposed investments coming forward in terms of organic farming, because it is a growing sector and there is growing demand from consumers for it. In 2021, we've invested about $1 million in promoting organic produce and finding export markets for it, and there's a similar budgets forecast for 2022 or similar spending. And obviously as organic production grows and we have more organic produce to sell, or spend in that area will reflect that.
Will increase. Quickly now, Sean, because...
Sorry, Dan, thanks. Just a couple of things that would worry me, I suppose, is the comparison, first of all, between quality assurance and organic, which would be two very different schemes in the sense quality assurance being much lower quality, but also the idea that you couldn't look at food service or public procurement for an organic scheme because it's limited by the supply chain, in my opinion, is actually not true. I actually think this is, by Board Bia, a bit of a cop-out, and it always worries me because you have, and this is not, I'm not being negative about Board Bia. Your role in a marketing role is to market to the best of your ability products. But if you have a product that a consumer will see as superior to a product that represents about 97% of the export market, the market production, it's very, very difficult for Board Bia to market conventional food alongside organic food. And the argument should be at this stage, if we really want to grow this according to the Green Deal, is surely to God we should have a Board Bio or Board Bio alongside a board and separate funding streams. Because it's very, very difficult to do that. Like, I think the idea that we couldn't seriously look at a public procurement for organic food, given the health implications the government talks about, it's actually staggering, because there's quite a few people in the organic sector think that under the new future this will be part of it. But the second thing I want to ask you as well,
Sorry, just on that point, can I just ask, to keep in mind the question, but is there any example, does that happen in other countries, where you split the marketing boards into conventional and
I don't know.
Organic?
I honestly don't know. But I think it's a crucial thing. If you look at the growth of organic food has been hampered, and it's been hampered for a number of reasons, but one of them is the marketing element of it has never got away from the fact that we also have a decent, very good conventional, we'll say beef, for example, beef system. And so it's very, and it's not Board Bia's fault. They can't, how do you sell the best attributes of a product if one is going to be negative against the other?
So the idea would be to have an offshoot of Board Bia just specifically for organics?
Dedicated 100%.
Sorry, the question.
Yeah, no, it's as I said, there is a limitation at the minute, just in terms of overall production, in terms of obviously these and providing the public sector just with product, but it's certainly something that we can look at moving forward as production increases. Obviously, there's, as I said, it's very encouraging to see the investment in organic farming and the promotion of getting farmers back into the schemes. I think the scheme's reopening now in January to encourage more farmers to get back into it or to join organic farming. So as production of organic produce increases, or marketing and promotion of organic produce will grow to reflect that.
Do you have another question?
I do, and it's a slightly aside, and I don't know if you can answer this for me or not, but one of the things that we try to cover this week is the whole area of biological agriculture and the idea, and also regenerative agriculture in the same mouthful. But one of the things that we've talked about is, over the last week, is that on the short supply chain, nutrient density food grown in a regenerative or biological process will get a premium because there's that short relationship with them. Is there any? Does Board BIA see any market out there at the moment for demand for regenerative or biological type products in the commodity type retail market?
To be completely honest, Sean, it's not something I would know the answer to.
No,
I'll be honest with you. I can ask internally and get someone to come back to you on that, but to be honest, I wouldn't know the answer.
No, that's perfect, Seamus.
Finally, John, do you have a quick question?
Yeah, well, just about the public procurement. I know you said that there isn't a production there to actually move into that space, but if you take the Danish example, their strategy for growing their organic market is to do that on a phased basis, and you don't have to do it across all of the public sector. You can take, you can choose various services where there are public eateries, and you can do it on a phased basis even at that level, and just grow in terms of grow the market and the demand on that basis. That's one thing. The second thing was there was a study published just a couple of weeks ago from one of the research institutes in the Netherlands, and it looked at the retailers, and most of the data that you presented was from retail level, but some of the major retailers, the economic analysis showed that they were actually making a loss on organic produce, right, because they had to buy it at a little bit greater a cost. And then you quoted that, for example, people were only willing to pay a 10% premium over conventional, all right? But you see, if that's going to be the case, and it goes back to certain comments that were made by different producers over the last few days, we actually need to realise that we need to pay more for our food in terms of the quality, the effort that goes into its manufacture, and and sometimes, Seamus, in fairness, you did mention, the whole thing about green boxes and online sales, and that's direct contact with the consumer as well, and that's something that needs to be encouraged, needs to be fostered, and needs to be grown.
Fantastic. Okay, listen, I tell you what, we're going to let Seamus go. God love you, Seamus. I hope you get better soon, and thank you very much for taking the effort to join us and give us that presentation. We very much appreciate it.
No worries, thanks very much.
Okay, we have finished day 4 of BioFarm. Brief overview.
How are we doing on time? Are we over?
I have no idea what time it is. 7:20. So a brief overview of tomorrow then. Christine Jones to start.
Yeah. No BioFarm will be complete without Christine Jones coming at least 3 times. That's our standard now. Tomorrow is a bit of a mix again. We're looking at things like
bit of a soil day, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah, and we maybe didn't cover beef as much as we'd liked in the earlier days. So we have sorry, Rob Brewster. I had him in earlier. Sorry, I'll start at the top. After Christine, we have Jerry Gillespie talking on composting.
Lovely.
And this will hopefully be a really interesting thing. But also, I think how we extend our knowledge on where composting can be, where it goes. I think it's really interesting. Many people will know Ian Tolhurst from Tolhurst Organic Vegetables, but tomorrow he's actually talking on the role of wood chip, and ramial wood chip in particular, and how it can be used in compost building in grassland. Dave Beecher is on to talk about the results of the Dano EIP and how the progress they're making, or not making. I actually don't know, but from what I understand, it's going to be positive. Rob Brewster then is talking about mob grazing in difficult terrain in Scotland and how he's making money from that system. And then Liz Bowles is going to talk on the soil carbon toolkit, the tool carbon toolkit measurement that the Soil Association used. We looked around quite a bit for this, and actually, John, you were helping me on this, and we actually was kind of disappointed with the attitudes of some of the way that the measurements were being made and something, and I'd be a bit dubious. So I've asked the Soil Association because I felt I might have a decent one, you know what I mean? So it will be interesting to see how that goes. And then there's a kind of a full summary on where we go on with organics with and biological agriculture from Klaus Leitenberger.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you very much for joining us. Thanks to all our contributors today. Join us tomorrow at 1 o'clock tomorrow, isn't it?
1 o'clock, yes.
1 o'clock tomorrow.
We might even start a little bit earlier to do a wrap-up of today.
Let's say 10 to 1 tomorrow.
10 to 1.
Have a good evening and we'll see you tomorrow.